the royal historian Elizabeth, that's a suitable name as well, Norton, joins us this morning.
Morning.
You were convinced it was going to be George all along.
I was, yeah, I did pick George as a likely contender, really.
Why George then? Because it has lots of historical connotations, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, it's obviously the name that the Queen's father chose when he became king as George VI, and actually the first 50 years of the 20th century, it was pretty much always a George on the throne. After Queen Victoria briefly at the beginning of the century, and then Edward VII, apart from a brief few months of Edward VIII, it's just George really, so it's a big Windsor name.
We understand that the Queen was told that he was being named George on her visit yesterday morning, and of course she will be delighted. That was her father's name.
Yeah, I mean, actually it wasn't her father's name. Her father's first name was Albert, but he chose George.
Because they don't have to be king or queen with the name that they're christened with.
No, that's right. There have been a few changes in recent sort of centuries. So there was Albert, who became George VI. Edward VII, his grandfather, was Albert as well. Queen Victoria was actually Alexandrina Victoria.
Oh, so I was going to move on to Alexander. So just tell us a little bit about the history behind that name, because they've really chosen, very carefully, obviously.
They have, yeah. I mean, they're very traditional names. Alexander isn't a particularly popular name in the British royal family, but there are a couple of female Alexandras or Alexandrinas. So there was Queen Alexandra, who was Edward VII's wife at the beginning of the 20th century, and then, of course, there is Alexandrina Victoria, the great Queen Victoria.
So there's all this history going into it. I mean, there's of course Louis, the third name, which I assume is a link back to Mountbatten.
Yeah, I would think so. And also, of course, it's one of Prince William's middle names. So, I mean, that's a nice nod to the baby's father, really. But yeah, also, of course, Louis Mountbatten and the French royal family who the baby is descended from. So it's got a great history.
They've done their homework, haven't they?
They really have. Yeah, they're really carefully chosen names.
Tell us about the timing as well, because didn't we have to wait? For Prince Charles it was a month or something, wasn't it? And quite a lot for William as well.
Yeah. They seem to have really thought it through. I mean, George was really the obvious choice. I mean, I suspect that they'd already had it chosen, and they waited until the Queen visited yesterday to make sure that she was obviously happy with their choices. But it's such a nod back to the past of the dynasty. It's actually a really great choice.
Could they have gone for something that they really want, something wacky that hadn't been in a royal tradition, but that they just really like? Do you think they could possibly have done that, or is that just not an option?
There's always got to be a first of any name. George I in 1714, so it was a new name for a king. I don't think they would have done that. I mean, actually, the Queen went quite unusual with her choices, with Charles and Andrew. Neither of them are very common in the royal family. There's been two King Charleses, but not since 1685, and one of them got his head chopped off. So it's not the most usual name for her to choose.
Well, I was reading some of the precedents for Georges are not great either, are they? I mean, one of them ended up in a barrel of wine or something, and another one was beheaded. I mean, any name is going to have connotations.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, actually, yeah, the first royal George that I could come up with, and I think he's the first George in the royal family, was the younger brother of Edward IV at the end of the 15th century, who betrayed his brother, was convicted of treason, and possibly drowned in a butt of Malmsey wine at the Tower. So that's the one who was drowned.
Goodness me. There will now, presumably, this is what happens, be lots of new baby Georges, will there, do you think? Will it have that sort of influence or not?
It may do, but I was trying to rack my brains. I'm a similar age to Prince William, and actually I was thinking, I don't think I knew any Williams growing up. So whether it will or not, it's a great name, so it may well do.
OK, thank you very much. Good to speak to you. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.